people say, I mean, or what some of the senators have said, because I actually do speak with Senator Saraki, who said that, you know, all they're asking is read the letter, at least acknowledge it on the floor of the Senate.
Well, the issue is that the reading of the letter is not going to be through the prompting of the author. You could read a letter just like you could send a motion, or you could send a bill, or you could do anything, and a correspondence, a communication with the presiding officer. He is not under obligation to do it by a prompting. It's a communication. It will definitely be done, but he has to look at all the exigencies. In this case, he has to look at the matter before the court and other matters bordering on the rules of the Senate.
Even to acknowledge receipt of the letter.
The acknowledgement of the receipt is not the issue of reading. About the acknowledgement of the receipt, there are various ways of acknowledgement.
Yes, but we wouldn't even help, because if you say, well, acknowledge the receipt of this letter, but this matter, as you know, is before the court, and as such, we cannot delve into debating the matter.
See, one thing I want us to appreciate is that I have said here earlier that we must have a clear difference between politics and governance. The politics of it, yes, read the letter, 20 more or 11 more senators have defected. The politics of it. But the governance part of it is, what are the internal regulations? What are the principles guiding such conduct? The conduct of a letter being a communication between the member, and these are issues of privileges. And once we are looking at the issues of the issue of privilege of a member, you cannot do that, with some level of disregard to extant provisions of either the House rule or the law.
So does it mean the House is violating some of these extant rules? Because we saw recently how members are
talking about the discretion of the presiding officer. The issue in the Senate may be different from the issue in the House of Representatives. Like, I'm sure you're also aware from the various press clips, where the leadership of the Senate have been having meetings with the other senators and all that. Nobody have told us what has been the discussions in such meetings. Nobody have told us what has come out of such meetings. But what we are now talking about is the issue that 11 senators defected, or the letter has been read, or the letter is not read, and all that.
Because what we saw in the House of Representatives was that a speaker read the letter, acknowledged, well, I don't know if it's acknowledging receipt, but we saw him read the letter, and then we heard him say that, that the matter is in court, and that he's going to take legal advice from, proper legal advice from his lawyers. I think somebody had raised the point of order after he read the letter, citing certain parts of the Constitution, and he pointed out that he's been told that the matter is in court and that he will take legal advice, and it would seem that immediately put paid to whatever it is. It does not seem to raise any dust. So one is wondering, why is it that it cannot obtain in the Senate as well?
Well, we have a challenge in this country, the challenge of national consciousness and national security. By the time, if you look at the timing, by the time the letter in the House of Rep was read, the polity was not as heated as it is presently. That's my one.
It wasn't?
No, it wasn't as it is now. Then number two,
what has changed now?
No, too many things have changed. I'm going to explain that to you.
Okay.
Now, secondly, the persons in the House of Representatives, they did their letters. The issue of the defection and the discussion with it, they did their letters, and then from the collection of those that are individual representations, we're all put together. It wasn't the issue of saying that we of the channels, because you must show justification that you are not acting on behalf of somebody falsely or misleading the House or the Senate into doing what they ought not to have done. So there are processes. It's because we undermine the procedural issues. We are also always looking at for the outcome. What about the input? By the time you get to before you get to a realistic outcome, you must be very careful about the issue of the input, because you can take one step that will lead all of us into a pit, and it will take so many steps to get us out of the pit. So it behooves the leadership and anybody in leadership position to now begin to consider the imperative, the compelling necessities of certain issues that will be beneficial not just to governors, but to Nigerian people in defense and preservation of the Constitution, which of course has as a central theme the security of your life and my life and our overall welfare.
Well, now that, sorry, Sulaiman, now that due process is being followed according to what you're saying is playing out in the Senate, what do you think?
The due process is not followed. The due process is not followed to the extent that the individuals, senators, are not doing the defection.
That's what I'm saying. Well, the Senate president has decided to rule them out of order, for whatever reason. It could be for the reason you're given, it could be for another reason. They've been ruled out of order, so it would seem that some process is being followed there. What do you see playing out? Because, some people will say that they might not be able to defect officially, but they are not members of the PDP any longer.
Wait a minute. Who is a member of a political party in this country? A member of a political party at any given time is he or she who, out of self-conviction and believe in the ideology or the manifesto of a political party, adopts them as his own political party.
Assuming they have one.
Yeah. But in this case we are talking about the issue of individuals' perception, which of course, as a matter of fact, lacks character and color. The perception lacks character and color. I'm not talking about the individuals now. So you cannot, I repeat, if you represent, multiple represents, constituency A, or a senator representing Senatorial District B, and now you are there in the chambers. Chamberlain gets up to say, on behalf of all of us in the channels, we've left channels to go to AIT. When you are appointed into or elected into Channel Senatorial District, you were representing a core. So if you want to do that, go ahead to do that individually.
No, Honorable, I get your point.
Yeah.
I'm simply saying, what do you see playing out henceforth? For instance, in a matter of debates, in a matter of, when they bring motions to be read, and you think that the PDP would still has a majority, at least officially,
I have told you earlier here that what is playing out is the harvest in the season of anomy. It is a very difficult country to be predicted because of poor leadership recruitment process. In the days ahead, you're going to see a lot of things. You will wake up and become very surprised. Because you can't sow orange and harvest for
But I think what Martha is trying to say is that if, just as Senator Abe said, we are members of APC now, so if any debate comes up on the floor of the House, whether you say the matter is in the course or you refuse to acknowledge the receipt of the letter, they will argue their position from the perspective of a new party, the APC.
They are supposed to even argue their position on the basis of the issue and not political party, because they are not there at the instance of they are not representing the political party.
No, but at some point, that will kick it.
So what I'm saying is that if we are following the process like you are talking about, let's say the issue of the budget comes up. Budget has nothing to do with PDP or APC. It has nothing to do with you and I.
Honorable, even in the advanced democracies, let us face the issues now. Even in advanced democracies, we know that oftentimes they rely on their base within the National Assembly to secure support for whatever bill it is that they are sending. So let us face that reality. It's a reality, isn't it?
What I'm trying to say here is that whether you perceive yourself to be an APC or not, when it comes to the issue in the floor, a budget for example, it doesn't really matter whether you are APC or PDP. It's the issue of governance. So you are expected, as it were, to now engage this discussion. It has happened in America, where the Democrats and the Republicans were engaging themselves in various
it is the issue of governance, but it's not devoid of politics.
It's not.
It's not devoid of politics. Because everybody says that the budget, they all agree that the budget is a political tool.
As much as it's a political tool, central to it is the overall welfare of the Nigerian people.